Hi Samya, am I visible? Am I live? Let me just check if I'm live. Right, I think we are live. I think we are live now. Cool. Alright, so today we're here for another practice on reading comprehension. I have curated a passage for the day. Before we begin with the passage, I'll do a small warm up with a couple of para completion questions. Right. Hi Soumya, welcome to the lesson. Uh, Very good afternoon. Right. So before we delve into the nitty gritties of the lesson for the day, allow me to just quickly take you through an introduction to the Unacademy platform, to the Unacademy portal. Unacademy, as you are very well aware, is India's largest learning platform today when it comes to cracking any and every competition exam. And you're here on this YouTube channel particularly for management exams like CAT, GMAT, NMAT, ZAT, IFT, and the likes, right? So yeah, that's what you're here for. I am Prankur Arora. I am going to be your trainer and coach on this journey where I'll be taking you through various aspects of verbal ability as well as reading comprehension. I've been a trainer and a coach for the better part of the last couple of years, where I've even had the opportunity to train employees of various organizations like Interglobe, Marico, Becton Dickinson, FMC Corp, very many organizations from different industries. I'm also a published author. I wrote this book called It's Not Funny. It got published, was even reviewed positively by the likes of, greats, Biswapati Sarkar and Papa CJ, great humorists, great comedians in their likes. And so, yeah, if you're fond of fiction or if you're fond of, sardonic humor, satirical humor, be sure to check it out. It's available on Amazon. I also hold advanced certifications in facilitation from an American organization called Leadership Management International, LMI. LMI is perhaps the world's largest organization working in the space of transformational leadership. And I run a production house called Tamasha Entertainment. So, yeah, that's pretty much about me. Welcome aboard this journey of learning with me. There are quite a lot of features, that help Unacademy stand out as a platform, as a portal, as an LMS. Some of those features include giving you access to live classes on a daily basis, tests and quizzes that are in line with the exam that you're preparing for. And the courses on the platform, all of the courses, they're all structured and, they help you get the best out of your learning journey. Plus, with one subscription, you get unlimited access to anything and everything. Yes, Soumya, yesterday I was on leave. I did not conduct any classes yesterday. Quite a lot of educators available on the platform who are all credible people who've successfully mentored aspirants into various top tier business schools. Live classes are available to you for free, and you can start learning from the best educators today itself. New batches, new courses, they keep on going live on the platform. And the idea is that, we've got educators who teach in vernacular languages as well. So if you're not as comfortable with English, be sure to check these educators out who might be teaching in a regional language that you're comfortable with. Also, you design your own schedule on the platform. You design your own schedule, you personalize on your own schedule, you decide what are the kind of courses you want to enroll into, who are the kind of educators you want to be learning from. All that ownership is on you, plus all the interaction that happens on the platform happens in real time, be it doubt clearing discussions or questions that are conducted in the form of polls, right? So if you participate in polls, you compete for a place in on the leaderboard. That is like another adrenaline rush altogether, right? And as I was saying, we conduct these exams, we conduct these tests. The idea of these tests, mock tests and quizzes, is that we give you in-depth analysis into your performance, stuff like topic wise scores, the time you're spending on every question. All of these statistics will help you develop more perspective about your preparation. and do some course correction if need be, right? Having said that, these are the subscription models that Unacademy works on. You can clearly see that as the time period of the subscription goes up, the cost of the subscription per month is going down. So, yeah, do opt in for a longer learning journey. I would recommend that because, when you're preparing for a competition exam, it is always a long learning journey. It is a lengthy journey, right? And if you use my name Prankur, you get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you go for, right? Having discussed all that, let's jump into the lesson for the day. The first question is a para completion question, as you can clearly see. Read the argument, read the passage, and tell me which of the options do you think would fit in here in the conclusion. Soumya says it's B. All right, let's check this out. Which of the following best completes the passage below? The computer industries, this is where the passage begins. The computer industries estimate that it loses millions of dollars when users illegally copy programs without paying for them is greatly exaggerated. Most of the illegal copying is done by people with no serious interest in the programs. Thus, the loss to the industry is quite small because. So, what are we talking about? What is the premise? The premise is that, we have the. Okay, Anushka says it's B as well. All right. The premise is that the computer industry's estimate uh, is kind of exaggerated. Why is it exaggerated? Because then they're saying that most of the illegal copying is done by people with no serious interest in the programs, right? So they are expanding on it by saying that people who are copying the program have no interest in the program really, and then they conclude by saying that the loss to the industry is quite small. Okay, how do we measure loss to any industry? The loss is measured in sales numbers, right? Sales numbers, that is what will give you the loss. So what are we really talking about? We're talking about sales numbers. And if any of these options talks about sales numbers, right, that is like the only option that will fit in here. Okay. Option A: many users who illegally copy programs never find any use for them. Are we talking about the usability of the programs? We know for a fact they are saying that people copying them have no serious interest, so it is not really telling us anything new. We eliminate A. B. Most people who illegally copy programs would not purchase them even if purchasing them were the only way to obtain them. So we know for a fact that option B is referring to actual purchasing, actual sales number, and option B is telling us that sales numbers would not really, increase if these people had to buy the programs. Right? So I guess both Soumya and Anushka, the both of you have gotten it right. Let me just validate it by looking at options C and D as well. Option C tells me that even if the computer industry received all the revenue it claims to be losing, it would still be experienced. We're not talking about the financial difficulties of the organization, that is not mentioned in the paragraph at all, so we eliminate C. D. The total market value of all illegal copies is low in comparison to the total revenue of the. Again, uh, we're not talking about the market value right now. We're talking about whether sales are being affected or not. Right? Market value is not really mentioned in the paragraph, so I'll remove this as well. B is the only viable option. Very well done. Next question. Again, the same. Which of the following conclusions can most properly be drawn from the information above? Alright, guys, this is another para completion question. Soumya thinks it's C. Alright, Soumya, let's look at whether you've gotten it right. Um, what is the premise? What is the premise to this question? The premise is when a polygraph test is judged inconclusive, this is no reflection on the examinee. Rather, such a judgment means that the test has failed to show whether the examinee was truthful or untruthful. Right? So what are we talking about? We are talking about inconclusive polygraph tests, and we are saying this inconclusive test has no reflection. But it only means that the test has failed to show whether the examinee is truthful or untruthful. It has no reflection on the examinee at all. And then we are saying, nevertheless, employers will sometimes refuse to hire a job applicant because of an inconclusive polygraph test. Therefore, now we have a cause and an effect, right? We have to bridge the gap between that cause and effect, right? Option A: most examinees with inconclusive polygraph tests are in fact untruthful. See, this is again a judgment that I cannot reach from the passage. Because the test is inconclusive, how can I say they are untruthful? The passage is not giving us any information. Polygraph tests should not be used by employers in the consideration. Again, we are only talking about inconclusive polygraph tests. What if polygraph tests are conclusive, right? Why should they not be used by employers? Again, there is no bearing on what the passage is telling us. An inconclusive polygraph test result is sometimes unfairly held against the. This is exactly what is establishing the cause and effect relationship. Well done, Anushka. Well done, Soumya. The both of you have gotten it right. A polygraph test indicating that an examinee is untruthful can sometimes be mistaken. See, we are not talking about conclusive polygraph test. If the polygraph test is indicating untruthfulness, then that means it is conclusive. We are talking about inconclusive polygraph tests, right? So I'll eliminate D as well. Good job, guys. Now I guess you're fairly warmed up, right? You're fairly warmed up. Let's begin with the reading comprehension. Quickly summarize this paragraph. Soumya says headache, sir. Come on, come on. Work through it, Soumya. Work through it. Right. Tell me what is the subject of this paragraph? What is the subject and what is the main point? Subject is, essentially what is the paragraph talking about, and main point is the why. Subject classic Maya collapse. I guess yes. This is what the paragraph. The first line itself tells us that this is going to be a summary of the classic Maya collapse. Well done. What is the main point? Why or how is the author talking about the collapse? Saurabh Jain. All right. Hi, Saurabh. Reasons behind the Maya collapse. Yes, that is the main point. Right. We're talking about identifying the five strands, and then the author tells us how many archaeologists debate still or disagree on various strands because evidently varied in importance among different parts of the Maya realm. Because different sites, different studies are available for only some sites, and because it remains puzzling why most of the Maya heartland remain nearly empty of population and fail to recover after the collapse, right? So the idea is the main point of this paragraph is to talk about or figure out the reasons, to dig deep, right? Good job. Next paragraph. Again, tell me what is the subject of this paragraph and what is the main point. Quickly tell me, guys, quickly tell me what is the subject of this paragraph and what is the main point. It's a bit confusing. All right, I'll take you through it. Allow me to take you through it. With those caveats, it appears to me that one strand consisted of population growth outstripping available resources. So, what was the previous paragraph telling us? Previous paragraph telling us that there are five strands of reasons, right? One strand is that population growth outstripped available resources. A dilemma similar, and then this is an example. A dilemma similar to the one foreseen by Thomas Malthus in 1798 and being played out today in Rwanda, Haiti, and elsewhere. Right? So now they are telling us that when population, see, understand it talks about one particular strand. All right? Okay, Saurabh. So the idea is that when there is a limited amount of resources and the population is basically expanding, and it is more than enough, or rather even more than that. One is that I can satisfy 1 million people here within this circle of resources. The other is our population is 5 million. So how will this set of resources satisfy 5 million people? So that is what they are saying, that one reason is where population growth outstripped available resources, and then they give you examples. As the archaeologist David Webster succinctly puts it, too many farmers grew too many crops on too much of landscape. Compounding that mismatch between population and resources was the second strand. So now we are talking about what? We are talking about the second reason. Alright, Saurabh. So this was the first strand. And then this is the second strand, the effects of deforestation and hillside erosion, which caused a decrease in the amount of usable farmland at a time when more rather than less farmland was needed, and possibly exacerbated by an anthropogenic drought resulting from deforestation by soil nutrient depletion and other soil problems, and by the struggle to prevent bracken ferns from overrunning the fields. So we are not talking about one, we are talking about two strands, right? This is where they mention the first strand, one strand, and this is where they mention the second strand. Okay, next paragraph. Subject, third strand. All right. Let's look at it. Right. The third strand consisted of increased fighting as more and more people fought over fewer resources. Maya warfare, already endemic, peaked just before the collapse. That is not surprising when one reflects that at least 5 million people, perhaps many more, were crammed into an area smaller than the US state of Colorado. That warfare would have decreased further the amount of land available for agriculture by creating no man's lands between principalities where it was now unsafe to farm. Bringing matters to a head was the strand of climate change. So now they are talking about a different strand. Alright? Next two strands are being discussed. Yes. Soumya, this was one strand, which is fighting between principalities. Then there is the fourth strand, which is climate change. The drought at the time of the classical collapse was not the first drought that the Maya had lived through, but it was the most severe. At the time of previous droughts, there were still uninhabited places, parts of the Maya landscape, and people at a site affected by drought could save themselves by moving to another site. However, by the time of the classic collapse, the landscape was now full. There was no useful unoccupied land in the vicinity on which to begin anew, and the whole population could not be accommodated in the few areas that continue to have reliable water supplies. So, yes, main point is two more strands. Alright, next paragraph. Okay, fifth strand. All right, let's discuss this. As our fifth strand, we have to wonder why the kings and nobles fail to recognize and solve these seemingly obvious problems undermining their society. Their attention was evidently focused on their short term concerns of enriching themselves, waging wars, erecting monuments, competing with each other, and extracting enough food from the peasants to support all those activities. Like most leaders throughout human history, the Maya kings and nobles did not heed long term problems insofar as they perceived them. Right. Last paragraph, I guess. This is the concluding paragraph. Subject, Soumya thinks, is the Maya and the past societies. Alright. Okay. Finally, while we still have some other past societies to consider before we switch our attention to the modern world, we must already be struck by some parallels between the Maya and the past societies. Okay, so parallels, Maya, past societies. Alright. As on Mangarewa, the Maya environmental and population problems led to increasing warfare and civil strife. Similarly, on Eastern Island and at Chaco Canyon, the Mayan peak population numbers were followed swiftly by political and social collapse. Parallelly, paralleling the eventual extension of agriculture from Easter Island's coastal lowlands to its uplands and from the Mimbers floodplain to the hills. Copan's inhabitants also expanded from the floodplain to the more fragile hill slopes, leaving them with a larger population to feed when the agricultural boom in the hills went bust. Like Easter Island chiefs erecting even larger statues eventually crowned by Pukao, and like Anasazi elite treating themselves to necklaces of 2000 turquoise beads, Maya kings sought to outdo each other with more and more impressive temples covered with thicker and thicker plaster, reminiscent in turn of the extravagant, conspicuous consumption by modern American CEOs. The passivity of Eastern chiefs and Maya kings in the face of the real big threats to their societies completes our list of disquieting parallels. So, what is the idea? The idea of this paragraph is to draw parallels. Talk about the similarities among how their chiefs operated as compared to other leaders. All right, let's solve the questions now. We've read the entire passage. Question number one. According to the passage, which of the following best represents the factor that has been cited by the author in the context of Rwanda and Haiti? If you want me to take you to the previous paragraphs, let me know. I'll take you to the previous paragraphs to answer this question. So, here is where we're talking about Rwanda and Haiti. Okay, I guess you've read it by now. I'll take you back to the question. Okay, Saurabh thinks it's B. All right. Yeah, Soumya, I'm feeding on nuts right now. What do you think is the answer, Soumya? B. All right. Let's look at this. With those caveats, it appears to me that one strand consisted of population growth outstripping available resources. Does it say land resources? No, it does not. It says available resources, right? Therefore, I will go with option A, various ethnic groups competing for land and other resources. Why are we only talking about land when the paragraph says resources and not specifically land resources? Alright, that is why I'll eliminate option B and I'll go with option A. Alright, let's look at question 2 now. By an anthropogenic drought, the author means what? So I'll take you back to the passage where they mention anthropogenic drought. All right, right. This is where they mention anthropogenic drought. So look at the sentence, right? Look at the sentence, get your hints. Compounding that mismatch between population and resources was the second strand, the effects of deforestation and hillside erosion. What are we talking about? The context is deforestation, which caused a decrease in the amount of usable farmland at a time when more rather than less farmland was needed, and possibly exacerbated by an anthropogenic drought resulting from deforestation, right? So we are talking about a drought that resulted from deforestation, right? Understand this, okay? And now let's go back to the question. By an anthropogenic drought, the author means what? D. Drought caused by actions of human beings is the correct answer. Good job, Soumya. Good job. Well done. Right. So we are talking about the context is deforestation, but what is deforestation? Deforestation is cutting of trees, right? Who cuts trees? Human beings cut trees, right? So therefore, the drought was caused by human beings. Anthropogenic basically means anything that is caused by humans. Okay. And the context of the paragraph, even if you did not know the meaning, gives you the same. Question 3. According to the passage, the drought at the time of Maya collapse had a different impact compared to the droughts earlier because. Allow me to take you back to the paragraph again. We are talking about drought at the time of the Maya collapse. It had a different impact compared to the other droughts. Okay. Read the options quickly and then I'll take you to the passage. Okay. Saurabh says B already. Okay. It happened at the time of collapse of leadership. Is it? Is that what you're saying? Look at this now. They say that at the time of classic collapse, it was not the first drought that the Maya had lived through, but it was the most severe. At the time of previous droughts, there was still uninhabited parts of the Maya landscape, and people at a site affected by drought could save themselves by moving to another site. However, by the time of the classic collapse, the landscape was now full. There was no useful unoccupied land in the vicinity on which to begin anew, and the whole population could not be accommodated in the few areas that continue to have reliable water supplies. So, this is what will give you the answer to this question. Now, quickly tell me what do you think is the answer? Okay, for the last question, then have you understood my explanation for the same, Saurabh? I explained why deforestation was not the appropriate answer, rather, something that was caused by human beings was more appropriate. C. Okay. C is the correct answer. Very well done, the both of you. C is the correct answer for this one. We are talking about how, during the previous droughts, the Maya people they shifted to lands that were uninhabited. But during this drought, they had no available land that they could, shift to or they could migrate to. Next question. According to the author, why is it so difficult to explain the Maya collapse? D. It has not been possible to ascertain which of the factors best explains as to why the Maya population collapsed. Uh, okay. How about you, Saurabh? What do you think? All right. So I guess you're taking longer. So Soumya, D is the correct answer. D is the correct answer. Well done. The entire passage is talking about how there are five different strands and scientists disagree a lot, right? So the idea being that it has not been possible to ascertain which factor best explains it because there are so many different reasons, right? So D is the correct answer. Well done. Question 5. This is the last question. So this entire Saurabh said C. Archaeological sites of Mayas do not provide any consistent evidence. So what did they talk about archaeological sites of Maya doing? Because detailed archaeological studies are available for only some Maya sites. So the idea is detailed studies are available only for some Maya sites, and because it remains puzzling why most of the heartland remained nearly empty. Right? This is how they talk about the archaeological studies. All right. Otherwise, the idea of talking about the five strands is because they cannot ascertain which strand explains the best reason, gives you the best reason. So D is a better answer than C. All right, Saurabh. Final question when it comes to this comprehension. This entire comprehension was a part of CAT 2008. All right, so you can look it up. It was part of the CAT exam for 2008, and you guys seem to be performing well thus far. So good job. Which factor has not been cited as one of the factors causing the collapse? C. Okay. Increase warfare among. So look at this. Which factor has not been cited? Not being the operative term. Has not been cited as one of the factors causing the collapse. Environmental degradation due to excessive population. This is strand number one, right? This is strand one. Social collapse due to excessive population. I think this is strand two or three. Increased warfare was strand. Sorry, climate change was strand three. Increased warfare was strand four. Obsession of Maya population with their own short-term concerns is the incorrect answer because Maya population was not obsessed. Leaders, kings or rulers were obsessed, right? So the population was not. Kings or rulers were obsessed with their short-term concerns, right? The population was not. What are they talking about? They're talking about the Maya society as a whole. They're talking about Maya population here. This was strand 5, but they were not talking about the population, they were talking about kings and rulers. Alright? So E is the correct answer. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the reading comprehension. Let's solve some reasoning questions now. Which of the following, if true, most strongly supports Summit's explanation of its success in retaining employees? So, what do you have to do? You have to strengthen the argument. Thank you for saying that, Soumya. Okay, you think it's D? Alright. Let's look at the question. The passage tells us that most employees in the computer industry, they move from company to company. They change jobs several times. However, now this is an operative term. However, Summit Computers is known throughout the industry for retaining its employees. Summit credits its success in retaining employees to its informal, non hierarchical work environment. Right? So, what are they saying? They're saying that, you know, they are saying that even though most employees in the industry they switch their companies a lot, there is one particular company which retains its employees. Jiske employees they don't switch their jobs. The reason they give is informal non hierarchical work environment. और हमें क्या करना है? We have to figure out one of these options that would support this claim of informal non hierarchical work environment. So if one of these options tells me that informal non-hierarchical environment is better, then that will support Summit's explanation, right? Logically speaking. So let me look for one such option. Option A. Some people employed in the computer industry, they change jobs if they become bored with their current projects. Are we talking about boredom? Is the passage talking about boredom? No. So I'll eliminate option A. Option B. A hierarchical work environment hinders the cooperative exchange of ideas that computer industry employees consider necessary for their work. So, this, Soumya, kind of looks to me like a viable option. Why? Because they are telling us how hierarchy is bad, right? This idea, when they say hierarchical work environment hinders, what are they telling us? They are telling us hierarchy is bad, right? This is what this option is telling me. And this supports the conclusion that Summit has an informal, non hierarchical environment. That is why its employees stick. So, this looks to me like a viable option. Let me go through C and D as well, though. Many of Summit senior employees had previously worked. Are we talking about previous work? We're not concerned with previous work, so I'll eliminate C. D. In a non hierarchical environment, people avoid behavior that might threaten group harmony and avoid discussing with their colleagues any dissatisfaction. See, D is talking about discussion. If I'm not discussing my dissatisfaction, does that mean I am not dissatisfied at all? ये लोग डिस्कशन की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट डिस्कशन ऑफ डिससेटिस्फैक्शन. बट अगर मैं डिस्कस नहीं कर रहा हूं उसका मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि मैं डिससेटिस्फाइड ही नहीं हो सकता. Are you getting my point? So that is why B is a better answer than D, because B is telling me why hierarchy is bad. D is talking about discussion. Okay, I'm not concerned with discussion, I'm concerned with actual dissatisfaction. Okay, let's move on to the next question now. Which of the following can properly be inferred regarding the past 3 years from the statement above? So this is an inference question. Okay, Samya says it's A. All right. What is the passage? The passage says a company's two divisions. Okay, I am writing. Uh, this is pharma, right? And this is Chemicals. Pharmaceutical has accounted for 20% of sales, 20% sales, and chemicals has 80% sales, right? If one division has 20, then that means the other has 80. Then they say that pharma is raking in 40% profit. That means chemicals has how much? 60% profit, right? So this performance has remarkably been consistent. Pharma 20% sales, 40% profit, 80% sales, 60% profit, right? So we can clearly see that when it comes to sales revenue, chemicals is 4 times pharma, and when it comes to profit, this is, if this is 60% and this is 40%, that means this is like 1.5 times, right? Clearly this is 1.5 times of pharma. Okay, making sense thus far? तो अब हमें इन्फेरेंस की बात करनी है. You say total dollar sales have remained roughly constant. So the idea, uh, Soumya, is that we are talking about percentage of distribution, right? We are talking about what? We are talking about percentage. This entire paragraph is talking about percentage. ठीक है, तो मैं टोटल डॉलर सेल्स की बात नहीं कर सकता अगर मेरे पास परसेंटेज है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ pharma did X business this year, tomorrow if they do 100X, right, that means chemicals will be doing what? Chemicals will be doing 400X, right? If X was pharma's business and chemicals ka business that year was 4X, so if pharma did 100X next year, chemicals का business would be 400X, right? Percentage increase ही तो हो रहा है, percentage proportion है. We don't have total dollar sales, we have percentage of dollar sales. Are you getting my point? So if I have percentage, I cannot draw a conclusion of numbers because I am only given percentage in the passage. Let me look at other options now. Option B tells me the pharmaceuticals division has faced stiffer competition in its markets. कोई competition की बात नहीं हुई है passage में, so I'll ignore option B. Option C, chemicals division has realized lower profits per dollar sales than has the pharmaceutical division. I can clearly conclude that. Why? Because if I have 4 times the sales, I have only 1.5 times the profit. 4 times sale, 1.5 times profit. So that means lower profits per sale, right? So I can conclude C and not A. D tells me product mix. हमें product mix की बात बताई नहीं है, हमें revenue share और profit share की बात बताई है, हमें sales share की बात नहीं बताई है. So I'll eliminate this as well. Okay, C looks to be like the most viable option, where I am concluding that my profits per sale is lower, right? Because here profit is more than sales, but here profit is less than sales. Okay, so C looks to be like the most viable option. Last question for the day. The consultant responds to the lawmaker's argument by saying what? That is what you have to figure out. So you have to figure out the tone. What is this question? You have to figure out the tone. You have to figure out what is the consultant saying, right? Consultant responds to the lawyer's argument by saying what? Okay, Soumya says A. What is the lawmaker saying? Lawmaker is saying we have a cheese importation board, right, that inspects all cheese that is shipped to Thiria. Thiria is the country. They say we inspect and then we reject shipments that do not meet specific standards. Yet only 1% is ever rejected, right? So typically we only reject 1%. Therefore, now the lawmaker concludes, therefore, क्योंकि 1% ही रिजेक्ट हो रहा है, so the consequences and economic cost of not rejecting that 1% are negligible. Whereas the board's operating costs are considerable. For economic reasons alone, the board should be disbanded. Why are they saying? They are saying 99% cheese is okay. I only have 1% that is bad, right? If 1% is bad, the consequences of this 1% are so low that economically keeping the board alive to reject these 1% of cheese is more costly. ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट ज़्यादा है, तो इसलिए मैं 1% का अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट बियर करने के लिए रेडी हूँ. Consultant responds by saying that, you know what, I disagree. Why? Because the threat of having their shipments rejected deters many cheese exporters from shipping substandard product. Now, the consultant argues that, you know what, just because the board is present, that is why we have 99% cheese that is actually good. If the board was not there, this quality would go down, right? This quality would go down if the board were not there. This is what the consultant is saying. तो हमें अब एनालाइज करना है कि ये कंसल्टेंट ने करा क्या है. Did the consultant reject the argument while proposing that the standards be raised? The consultant did not say the standards should be raised, Soumya. The consultant said that just by having the board, just by the threat of having the shipment rejected, many exporters ship good product. But if the board were not there, they would actually ship substandard product. So the consultant is not arguing to raise the standards at all. रेज करने का तो कंसल्टेंट ने बात ही नहीं करी, सो दैट इज वाई एलिमिनेट ऑप्शन ए. ओके. Option B is providing evidence that the argument has significantly overstated the cost. No, no evidence was provided by the consultant, so I'll eliminate B. C. Objecting to the lawmakers introducing into the discussion factors that are not strictly economic. Not really, because what are we talking about? We're talking about substandard product. If the product is substandard, it will have economic consequences, right? So we'll again eliminate option C. D. Pointing out a benefit of maintaining the board. Yes, this is the benefit. which the lawmaker's argument has failed to consider. Yes, the lawmaker did not consider the idea or the plus point of actually having a board, right? So D looks to be the most viable answer option to me. E says shifting the discussion to attack on the no integrity is attacked at all, so I'll eliminate option E as well. Okay, D looks to be like the most viable option to me, Soumya. Alright, with this, we've come to the end of today's lesson. Um, right. So I'll go live tomorrow at 12 p.m. again. If right, right. So Soumya, tomorrow 12 p.m. again, I'll be going live. Are there any topics particularly that you want me to look at, or we can continue with comprehension and reasoning practice? Or are there any other specific topics that you want me to look at? Right, Soumya, as well as anybody else who is attending this lesson right now. Analogy. Okay, analogy questions pertaining to reasoning and RC, right? Analogy questions from para jumbles. Okay, all right. Do we have anybody else who wants to give any inputs as to what I should be covering tomorrow? All right, so I'll wrap this up now and I'll be sure to cover some analogy questions pertaining to the reading comprehensions as well as para jumbles. Cool. All right. Okay. Let's wrap this up now. Have a great day, you guys. Stay safe, stay strong, stay mellow, and I'll see you tomorrow again at 12 p.m. Thank you for attending today's lessons.